oldest clothing ever found just uncovered in Oregon. When people think about the oldest clothing in the world, they usually imagine fragile fabrics from ancient Egypt or preserved textiles hidden in desert tombs. But one of the most surprising discoveries in recent years did not come from a pyramid, a glacier, or a royal burial. It came from a quiet archaeological site in North America that completely changed what we thought we knew about early human life on the continent. In a dry cave in what is now Oregon, researchers uncovered evidence of what may be the oldest known clothing ever found in the region, pushing back the timeline of textile use in ways that challenge long-standing assumptions about early human adaptation. The discovery is tied to an ancient site known as Fort Rock Cave, a volcanic rock shelter that has preserved organic materials in a way that is extremely rare. Unlike most environments where cloth, fibers, and leather decay quickly, this cave created a stable, dry microclimate that allowed fragments of ancient human life to survive for thousands of years. What archaeologists found here was not a complete garment hanging intact like a museum piece, but something far more subtle and scientifically powerful: woven sagebrush bark sandals that turned out to be astonishingly ancient. At first glance, these sandals might not seem extraordinary. They are simple, flat, and made from plant fibers. But radiocarbon dating revealed something shocking. Some of these sandals date back more than 10,000 years, placing them among the oldest known footwear in the Americas. That alone rewrites part of the human story in this region. But the deeper significance goes beyond just age. It reveals a level of technological and survival adaptation that was far more advanced than previously believed. These sandals were not decorative. They were functional survival tools designed for harsh terrain. The weaving patterns show careful construction techniques, with fibers twisted and layered in ways that distribute pressure and protect the feet from sharp volcanic rock surfaces. This suggests that early inhabitants of the region were not simply surviving in a basic sense, but actively engineering solutions to environmental challenges. Clothing, in this case, was not about fashion or status. It was about survival precision. What makes this discovery even more interesting is the sheer number of sandals found in the same region. Some caves contained dozens of pairs, all showing variations in size and style. This suggests repeated use over generations rather than a single, isolated occupation. It implies that this area was not a temporary shelter, but part of a longer human movement pattern across the landscape. The presence of so many discarded or replaced sandals also gives insight into how often they were used and replaced, offering a glimpse into daily life that is rarely preserved in archaeology. Researchers studying these artifacts noticed something else unexpected. The weaving techniques used in these sandals are remarkably consistent across time periods, suggesting a strong tradition of knowledge transfer. In other words, young skills were being passed down through generations with precision, even in societies without written language. That alone changes how we think about early cultural development in North America. But the story does not stop with sandals. The same region has produced other organic remains that hint at early clothing systems beyond footwear. Plant fibers, cordage fragments, and woven materials suggest that early inhabitants likely used layered clothing systems adapted to seasonal changes. While complete garments have not survived, these indirect clues allow scientists to reconstruct a broader picture of early textile use. Clothing was not a single invention moment. It was a developing system that evolved alongside human migration and environmental demands. One of the most important aspects of this discovery is what it tells us about migration patterns. For a long time, scientists believed early humans in North America primarily relied on simple hides and minimal clothing due to assumptions about climate and mobility. But evidence from sites like Fort Rock Cave suggests a much more sophisticated approach. The ability to create durable, reusable footwear implies planning, resource management, and an understanding of material properties that goes beyond basic survival instincts. North America. Across North America, similar discoveries have begun to reshape the timeline of human adaptation. Organic materials rarely survive in most environments, which means archaeology has often underestimated how advanced early technologies may have been. The Oregon sandals are part of a growing body of evidence suggesting that prehistoric human societies in the region were far more innovative than once assumed. Instead of simple hunter-gatherers struggling to survive, We are now seeing evidence of organized knowledge systems, tool specialization, and environmental engineering. Another surprising detail comes from wear patterns on the sandals. Microscopic analysis shows uneven wear in some cases, indicating that different individuals used similar footwear designs but adapted them to their own walking styles and terrain conditions. This suggests not just production, but personalization. Even in ancient times, humans were adjusting tools to fit individual needs, a behavior that connects directly to modern concepts of ergonomics. What also stands out is the material choice. A sagebrush bark was not randomly selected. It is strong, flexible, and abundant in the region, but it also requires processing before it can be woven effectively. This means early inhabitants understood not only where to find materials, but how to transform them into usable forms. That level of material knowledge is a key marker of technological development. There is also an environmental angle that makes this discovery even more important. The preservation of these sandals depends entirely on rare geological conditions. Volcanic soil, dry air, and minimal disturbance created a natural archive of human activity. Without these conditions, this entire chapter of early clothing history would have been lost. It is a reminder that what we know about ancient humans is often shaped as much by preservation as by actual behavior. As research continues, scientists are now using advanced imaging and fiber analysis to understand how these materials were processed. Some studies suggest that natural plant oils or soaking techniques may have been used to increase durability. Others propose that different weaving patterns were used depending on seasonal weather conditions. Each new analysis adds another layer to the understanding of how early humans interacted with their environment. The discovery also forces a rethink of how clothing itself evolved. Clothing is often seen as a simple extension of human culture, but findings like this show that it was deeply tied to survival strategy, migration, and environmental intelligence. It was not just about covering the body, it was about enabling movement across difficult terrain, protecting against injury, and extending human range into harsher environments. What makes the Oregon discovery so powerful is not just its age, but what it represents. These sandals are evidence of planning, craftsmanship, and knowledge systems that existed long before written history. They show that early humans were not just reacting to the environment, but actively shaping their interaction with it through technology and design. In the end, the oldest clothing ever found is not just about fabric or footwear. It is about a moment in human history where survival required creativity, and where even simple materials like bark became tools of adaptation. And perhaps the most important realization is that the roots of modern clothing technology are far older and far more sophisticated than we ever expected.